Welcome to the channel. My name is Matthias. So I finally finished John Mcwhorter's book, Woke Racism. So I'm going to give you guys like a brief review and some of my personal points of view on racism within the United States. So without further ado, let's get into this. So when I got this book, because I saw John on the Joe Rogan Experience, before Joe was like this full-on right-wing hack. I should do a video on Joe Rogan because I used to love his podcast and now I feel like it's just garbage. That aside, when I saw John on Rogan's show, I thought it was super interesting what he had to say. That's why I got the book. And the thing is, I thought he came from a background of political science, of politics, but no, I was really surprised to see he's a linguist. He is a associate professor at Columbia University. So that helped me understand more his angle and what he was going for in this book. Now, we already covered how he tries to define wokeness and how people that use it as a political weapon, there's always like a double standard there. And it's always super patronizing. So, like, in general, the whole idea, it's really interesting. Now, he super focuses on the African American community within the United States and the race dynamics there, which I'm not going to get into because number one, I don't live in the States. Number two, I'm not African American, so I don't know what's the experience of being a black person within the US. But I must note, I did live in the US when I was a kid, and I did suffer racism there. It was very astounding to me. Even back then, I was a little kid and I understood what was going down for being a Latino. But I feel like the big takeaway of this book is the whole idea of the weaponization of woke ideology, that it's so hypocritical, that very oddly that this wokeness that comes from the left attacks other people on the left and oddly is very helpful and props up the right. And here's one of my criticisms for this book because it feels like at moments that John is sort of pandering to the right and sort of feeding into their whole obsession with wokeness. At moments, he's sort of writing that fine line where I feel like, oh shit, he's a right wing hack. But then at the end of the book, at the conclusion where he tries to prescribe some ideas to eliminate wokeness, it seems that he's very, very progressive and very firmly on the left. And I must note, I watched a couple of interviews with John over the past year, and he talks about how we already passed peak wokeness, that after 2023, 2024, it has died down mostly on the left. But like I must make the observation, it has made a very weird shift to the right. It's super interesting. You see this new wokeness that I feel like is super dangerous, which is trying to protect hardcore Zionists and white supremacists. Like, we don't want to hurt their feelings. It's so funny because the right wing dudes that were bitching and moaning about left wing wokeness, later on, they were like, hold my beer, we're going to take this to 11. And that wokeness alienated a lot of people on the left and made them go to the right. And that's probably the worst thing that happened after all this whole situation. So let's get back to the book. At moments, the writer feels like he is hinting at the fact that racism is not an issue within the US, that they're sort of past that. But then in the conclusion, he makes it super clear this is a major problem still in the United States, but puts the focus on the fact that for many on the left, it's the only problem within the United States. And by doing that, you're making a gigantic mistake in not being able to fix any problems this way. Now, his prescriptions, how to deal with this problem in general, and again, he's focusing on the Black experience, which I feel are very progressive in many ways and constructive. I feel like you can extrapolate them and use them for many cases across the globe. First and foremost, in the war on drugs, again, focusing on the Black experience within the US and the amount of Black people that have been incarcerated. The whole issue of criminalizing people that have drug issues, that have addictions, and put them in the same bag as people that do recreational drug use It's a very stupid decision, and put a focus on the fact that it is a sickness and you have to come from it from that angle. Then, number two, the second prescription, I found it fascinating. And this one's super universal. Teach your kids how to read a lot. Now, the writer does go into the fact that in English, it's harder to learn how to read. It's not phonetic like Spanish, the language that I mostly use. So he does put a lot of focus on how to read in the first place and how to learn specifically English words. But grabbing a book, at least for me, grabbing a book, not being on the computer, not being on a cell phone, just an old school book, just really opens your mind. It is a great exercise for your brain. I feel like the more you read and the more subjects you touch on, it just keeps you really open minded. Like, I feel like reading and traveling are the two best things within your possibilities you can do for your life. Personally, I feel it is the best way to uproot any type of prejudice and any stupid ideas that are in your head. You could just destroy them just by reading, just trying to confront your ideas and test them. Number three is also super interesting. Again, very much focused on the American experience, is that university is not for everyone. And in the US, not like in the rest of the world, it's really, really, really expensive to go to university. For example, in the country that I live in, Argentina, universities for free, and the private universities are pretty affordable. Like, I was able to work and study at the same time and not fall into debt. But what John goes for in the book is to learn what we call in Spanish a oficio, like learn how to be a plumber, an electrician, a carpenter, a craft that you can use your hands. And he's not saying not go to the university. Like, if you can do it and you really want it, take a crack at it. But like, personally, now with AI, I feel like those professions that I mentioned earlier are fundamental, and no AI is going to be able to take it away from you. Oh, I forgot the term that John used in the book. He talks about vocational schools, which I'm not sure what they are. They seem to be something very much from the US. But the whole idea is that you're not a failure if you're not able to get into university. That's fundamental. Like, if you're able to learn anything that helps you get by in life with dignity and maybe be able to save some money and not fall into debt, you did it. That's how you do it. That's how you survive. So in general, like, I do recommend you guys, like, even if you don't live in the United States and you have not lived through racism there, it's a fascinating look into American culture and one specific issue and the whole idea of wokeness, how wokeness evolved from the black intellectual left and has now gone to the right. Like, the part that has gone to the right is an observation that I have made. But this book is worth reading, so see you guys next time. Bye.